What is up, everybody? It is time for another episode of The Morning After. And oh boy, we've got a lot to get to today. So it is the morning after week 14 in the NFL. It is the morning after the college football playoff bracket reveal. And that, my friends, was a doozy. The morning after, I guess maybe the week after me being deathly ill on last week's podcast, and I apologize for my voice still not quite 100%. I would estimate maybe about 80%, but let's be honest, at this stage of the season, we're all playing hurt, and we're plowing through. All right, on this episode of The Morning After, we have a lot to get to. We will obviously talk all things college football, not only the college football playoff, but Penn State has a new head coach and some politicking behind the scenes that may or may not surprise you. Very intrigued to bring that topic up and see how the social media sphere reacts to it. It already kind of caught a blaze over the weekend. Notre Dame opting out of the Pop Tarts Bowl. How dare they? I'll talk about what that means for college football and where I think the sport is heading. And, of course, we'll react to everything in the NFL. We are just finishing up Sunday Night Football, where you could basically, I don't know if you can play the tap song that they play at military funerals, but the Kansas City Chiefs season died. I think it's dead. I think it's over for the Chiefs. I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year. I think they're going to go from just the top of the mountain to the bottom of the barrel. And I'll talk why the Chiefs haven't lived up to expectations this year. NFL MVP, that market has flipped again. And, of course, Super Bowl Island, who I think is the true contenders right now. And I'll be honest, it's changing. And I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong. And, boy, I might have been wrong on some of these teams, especially in the AFC heading into the year. All right, but let's start out with the breaking news of Sunday morning. Before the NFL started, we got word of the college football playoff. I won't rehash all of the teams, the bracket. You kind of know what it looks like by now. If you're listening to this show, you're a fan of me, you're a fan of sports, you're probably plugged in to where you know that Alabama getting in over Notre Dame was the hot button topic. Miami also getting in over Notre Dame. They were the last team in the field as an at-large. That one not as controversial because Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head earlier in the year. So a lot of people can wrap their heads around Miami getting in over Notre Dame. People were really upset about Alabama getting in, and I understand why, because people love to gripe on the SEC bias that may or may not exist in the sport. I'm sure at some level, especially at the media side, it does. But I think at the end of the day, if anyone can look me in the eyes and say Bama's not a top 12 team in the country, they're lying, because they are. And maybe they haven't played like it over the last month, but the first, let's call it, chunk of the season outside of the game against Florida State, they were playing like a top 5 team, and they beat a top 5 team on the road. And I think recency bias is a hell of a drug. People are going to see how Alabama played in the SEC championship game, and they're going to say that Bama should be out. People are going to see how BYU played in the Big 12 championship game, and they're going to be upset that BYU dropped and Bama didn't. And my counter argument to that is, even before the Big 12 championship game started, BYU was ranked 11th, so they weren't even in the field when the game started. So the fact that they lost means that maybe they shouldn't have dropped, but they definitely didn't deserve to be in the field. Alabama was in the field when the SEC championship game started. And the committee last year gave us a clear precedent that they are not going to penalize teams for playing in the conference championship game. Now, does that mean they also should have not penalized BYU and not dropped BYU? Yes, absolutely. But also, BYU was 11th before the Big 12 championship game. So if they kept them at 11th, they still would have been out. But then you have the discussion about Miami getting bumped up closer to Notre Dame, and then they flip-flop those two. It was a mess from the start. The committee was handcuffed by the rules of the playoff. It's hard to fault them for keeping Bama in. Bama is a top 12 team. They are a playoff team. So is Notre Dame. Probably so is BYU. The irony here is I think the committee actually got the rankings right. Like, if you just look at the top 12 teams and you see Notre Dame at 11 and BYU at 12, that feels like the top 12 teams. But the problem is the system is broken. They are forced to take teams from the group of 5. BYU and Notre Dame at 11 and 12 would have been just fine. But they had to take JMU and Tulane, ranked 20th and 24th in the college football playoff rankings. Why have the rankings show? Why even have rankings to begin with if you're not going to take the top 12 teams? So my biggest takeaway from this clusterfuck, because let's be honest, it was a clusterfuck, and I don't drop many F-bombs on the show, but I did today because it felt worthy of it. This system is broken. The selection process, the way that it's paraded out to us every week like it's gospel, when it's in fact irrelevant and they're going to change it at any given notice to tweak their narrative. The conference championship games, irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. We did not need to see Georgia and Alabama play this week. We didn't need to see BYU play Texas Tech. We know Texas Tech's better than BYU. Both teams should have been in. Both teams entered the weekend in the top 12 of the college football playoff rankings. Didn't need that game. Indiana, Ohio State was fun, but didn't need it. They flipped one spot. Irrelevant. Completely irrelevant in the grand scheme of the playoff. The calendar, the format, it is all operating on the old set of rules. It's like trying to work your iPhone on the old operating system. We need to upgrade. We need to rip it down and start from scratch. We have 6 of the 12 college football playoff teams transitioning a head coach or a coordinator out during the playoff. 6 of them, half of the field. JMU and Tulane both lost their head coaches. Ohio State, OC, Brian Hartline, he's going to USF. Oregon, both coordinators, OC Will Stein, DC Tosh Lupoy, both taking head coaching jobs elsewhere. Texas A&M, OC Colin Klein is going to go be the head coach at Kansas State. And don't even get me started on Ole Miss. Don't even get me started on all the crap going on behind the scenes with the Ole Miss program while the kids are trying to prepare for a playoff game. It's unfair to the players. It's unfair to the fans. You know who it's fair for? The coaches. They're making money. The agents, they're making money. No matter what happens in college football, the bottom line these days, it's all about the money. If you've been listening to this show for the last couple months, you know we coined this during the college football coaching search. This version of college football is the love child of ballers and billions. It's all about the money. That's the whole reason they have conference championship games still. They're irrelevant. Why do they have them? For money. And then we get to the bowl games. So after Notre Dame gets bumped out of the field, what do? Their next move after that is to put out a statement that says, we are withdrawing our name from bowl consideration this year. Blah, 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 blah. Thank you very much. We appreciate the support. Where do I go with this? So, did Notre Dame deserve to make the playoff? Yes. Did they get snubbed? Absolutely. Are they a top 12 team in the country? Of course. Anyone with eyes can see that. They were jobbed by the system. We had to take JMU and Tulane, teams 20 and 24 in the rankings, so we couldn't take Notre Dame and BYU, the 11th and 12th teams in the country. It sucks. It's happened before in college football. You know when it's happened? Very recently, actually. It happened to Georgia 2 years ago. They had won 29 consecutive games heading into the SEC championship game in 2023. They lost to Bama by a field goal on a questionable call. The rankings dropped them from 1st to 6th. They missed the 4-team college football playoff field. Immediately after that, did they come out with a statement that says, we hate the system, we're going to go home and not play in the bowl game? No. all of their healthy, draftable players played in that game, the Orange Bowl against Florida State without Jordan Travis, and Georgia went belt to ass. One of the biggest blowouts I've ever seen in a bowl game. It was over before it started. 63-3 was the final score. That was a culture-building moment for Georgia. And Notre Dame did the exact opposite of that. Notre Dame said, screw you, college football. Essentially, they gave the middle finger to college football. That's essentially what Notre Dame did by opting out of the Pop Tarts Bowl, of all things. Who wouldn't want to participate in the Pop Tarts Bowl? It is a spectacle of college football. There are seniors on that Notre Dame team that will never play in a college football game again because they're going to go off and be like an engineer or an accountant or something. And you rob them of that opportunity to play in the game. It was a really cowardly decision. And I heard a lot of prominent Notre Dame people really, squawking about the process and the system. And I agree with them. It was a flawed process that led to a flawed result that they were left out of the 12-team field. But when things don't break your way, are you just going to cry about it and go home and quit? Is that the message you're trying to send to your team and your culture and your program? It was just, I felt it was soft. It was a soft move. So Notre Dame will not be participating in a bowl game. And I think this frankly shakes up bowl season forever. Like, it's kind of one of those turning point moments where it's obvious now. It's kind of like in The Wizard of Oz when they finally find out that the wizard is not this powerful wizard. It's just this guy behind the scenes pulling the strings. It's all about money. They even said when they put out the release, there was a prominent Notre Dame, I think he was an administrator. He was like a cardinal or something. He retweeted it and he said, I don't want ESPN taking advantage of this program. Like, okay, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. And Notre Dame could have easily fixed this. They could have just played in the game. Showed up, kicked the crap out of whoever the opponent was, and said, you see, we deserve to be in the playoff. That would have been the strong thing to do. That would have been the real way to get revenge on the committee. The Georgia way. That's why I think Georgia, to me, and we'll go into the college football playoff predictions in a minute, Georgia's the team to beat right now. I honestly think they are. I think they've got a bit of a mental edge on the field. I think Indiana's in that boat too, but I think Georgia's got a mental edge because they don't give up when the going gets tough. They lost that tough game to Bama early in the year. Man, they bounced back so strong from that. So Notre Dame opts out. And then the funny thing is, right after the Notre Dame Bowl opt-out, Marcus Freeman started taking heavy money at Kalshi to be the next head coach of the Giants. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I have no idea. You know how these coaching searches go. But it is kind of all crumbling underneath the Irish's feet. They were in the national championship game last year. They were a breath away from erasing a huge deficit and shocking the world. Nobody thought Notre Dame was going to be in the national championship game last year. They get left out of the playoff this year, and they decide, woe is me. I hate it. Hate everything about it. And I think it's a pivot. I think it's a turning point for Notre Dame's program and also for the bowl games. Because it's obvious now that the big programs, if they don't get into the playoff, they don't want to be a part of the auxiliary bowls. And I've said this for years on every show that'll have me. Until there's no more breath in my lungs, I will die on this hill. College football needs a pro-rel system. What's pro-rel? Promotion relegation. That is the only way to save the bowl games. The bowl games are dying a slow death. The business model doesn't work anymore. The big teams don't care. They're all going to turn into these exhibition funsy games, which, as a college football fan, don't get me wrong, I'm going to watch, I'm going to bet, but we used to care about these games, and now they are punchlines. So I think if I were to fix college football, I would create a pro-rel system where the top 25 to 30 teams are in the championship playoff division, and then the rest of the teams are in the second tier. And maybe you even have a third tier. I think in the EPL, in the European football, in the English Premier League, I think there's 3 or 4 tiers. I think there's the EPL, then there's the championship, then there's another league. I'm not familiar with all the rules. Maybe if there's a European soccer fan or footy fan out there can educate me on how many tiers of European soccer there are for different countries. But you have a top tier. And only the teams that play in that top tier, that play other teams in that top tier throughout the regular season, are eligible to make the championship. Then at the end of the year, the teams at the bottom of the top tier and at the top of the next tier play each other. You can get into the top tier or you can get out of the top tier and go back to the bottom. And think about how much money would be on the line if you get knocked out of the championship tier and all that playoff money, that pool money that will go, the TV money that goes to all the championship teams. Those games would be huge. People would go crazy for those games. You probably have 8 to 10 of them scattered throughout the course of a 2-week stretch where if you win, you go up, and if you lose, you go down. Go watch the promotion relegation games in the English Premier League and tell me that those games at the end of the year featuring teams that are completely out of the championship title mix aren't like the best games of the year. They are intense. They are like playoff games, even though the only thing you get is to stay in the league. That is your reward for winning. I don't think it'll ever happen because it is a radical change, and we're like the Titanic. It's going to take a long time to turn this ship around, but the current system we have is completely broken. It's infighting, it's politicking, it's garbage, it's opt-outs. It doesn't work anymore. There's too much money. These are professional athletes. We need to structure this like a professional league. And it's still kind of hanging on to that student-athlete model. It just doesn't work anymore. So, disappointed in Notre Dame. I think it obviously didn't break their way. I sympathize with their gripe, but it teaches the wrong lesson. When shit gets hard, you don't quit. You don't run away, go home crying to mommy. You buck up, you get back in the game, and you kick someone's ass. Every day is an opportunity to get better, but you can't get better if you don't even play. And here's another thing that a lot of people might not realize. The bowl season is huge for the future of your program, even if you are not in a major bowl game. Why? You get 15 extra practices. All the freshmen and sophomores who maybe didn't get a chance to play or practice like starters during the regular season, all of a sudden they get a better taste of it. And you really push the program forward into the next year. Notre Dame forfeited that right. They're unable to hold those practices now. CJ Carr's a freshman. He had a lot of growing this year. He could use those extra practices. Obviously, Jeremiah Love doesn't need him. He's gone. He's going to the NFL. But maybe the backup running back who didn't play that much this year because Jeremiah Love was getting all the carries could use those reps. I don't understand the decision by Notre Dame. It was a very selfish decision that I think in hindsight they might regret. But who knows? It could be a really disastrous move. If Marcus Freeman does end up bolting for the NFL and goes to the Giants, I mean, this could be a watershed moment in college football. Notre Dame opting out of the Pop Tarts Bowl. All right, let's actually talk about the college football playoff because now that the drama is behind us, that's the hardest part. We have to get over the hump of all the drama and the discourse and the anger and the resentment because at the core of this, we still get amazing college football games over the next 3 weeks. We should get at least 5 of them, I think. The first round is hit or miss. James Madison is going to be a massive dog at Oregon. Like, I tweeted out on Sunday, I was like, Notre Dame might end up being the best team in the field. Like, it's not a historically good crop of teams this year. There's not a Georgia from 3 years ago in this field where it's just they're going to blow through everyone. Notre Dame might end up being the best team, but we're not going to be able to watch them against an Oregon or an A&M or a Miami, even though they already played A&M and they already played Miami. Because we have to watch James Madison lose by 50 at Oregon. And they're a 3-touchdown dog at Oregon. Are they going to lose by 3 touchdowns? I don't know. Do I want to lay 3 touchdowns in a playoff game? No. They probably win and they probably cover, but I think there's probably better ways to bet that game. But let's be honest, Oregon's winning that game, and they're going to play Texas Tech in the second round, and that's going to be a fantastic game. Ole Miss is the other big favorite, about a 17-point favorite at home to Tulane. We've already seen this game this year. Tulane's defense had no answer for Trinidad Chambliss. He ran all over them in that game. He threw all over them in that game. I don't know how Tulane snuck past North Texas. North Texas played terrible in that American Conference Championship game. I really thought North Texas was the better team. They just didn't play well. I think Ole Miss handles them. Do they cover? Probably. Am I going to bet it? Maybe. Again, I feel like if you're laying double digits in a playoff game, like you just need everything to go right, and you just need, Ole Miss to kind of be in front from the start and kind of be on the front foot to cover that number. And I just think there's probably better ways to bet the game. I am very much engaged in the prop markets in college football. I think that's where, at this stage of year, you find the most value. So I'll probably look to bet some Ole Miss players over, especially Chambliss, who, man, I'll tell you what, one of the best stories in college football this year is Trinidad Chambliss. And it's a shame that the Lane Kiffin narrative is sucking the oxygen out of Trinidad Chambliss' season, because he has had maybe not a Heisman caliber season, but kind of right on that tier. And his narrative is legit. I mean, he came from nowhere. Ferris State, transfer, D2 up in Grand Rapids, and he looks like one of the best players in college football. What a find by Lane Kiffin, who unfortunately won't get to coach him in the first round against Tulane. But I think Ole Miss will move on. I think they'll play Georgia, who they already lost to this year. That'll be in the Sugar Bowl. I mean, you want to talk about an elite quarterfinal game. Ole Miss, Georgia, in New Orleans. I can't wait for that, and I think it's going to happen. The other 2 first-round games are toss-ups. I think let's start with Miami at A&M. That's the little bit wider of a number. I saw A&M laying 3.5. I think Miami's pretty good in the trenches. I do. I think Miami can hang with A&M up front here. I think the question is Mario Cristobal, tight sphincter syndrome, is it going to bite Miami in the ass? I think it helps. You're giving Carson Beck a full 3 weeks off. He was a little banged up to end the year. Malachi Toney, this freshman from Miami, might be the best player on the field. He might be a Heisman candidate next year. The receiver kind of plays all over. He's a slot guy, but he can line up all over the field. I think consistency is what I need to see more of from A&M. You had that wild game against South Carolina, and then you didn't play well against Texas, so they've kind of shown you their ceiling early in the year, but we haven't seen it lately. So can they regain some of their form? But I'll be honest, you're giving me more than a field goal with Miami in those lines. I don't need Miami to win the game. I just need them to keep it close. So I don't need Cristobal to make all the right decisions. I just need him to not completely screw the pooch. So I think I might be on the dog in that game. I think I might be on the Canes. Last team in the field, right? Got something to prove. I could see them keeping that one close down there in College Station. And then the game of the first round, obviously, the rematch between Alabama and Oklahoma. This was a great game a couple weeks ago. Oklahoma snuck one out, played a great defensive game. I think the key for Alabama is, can they get some of their pieces back? LT Overton, Jan Miller missed the SEC championship game. Both those guys, you could tell Alabama was they've been leaking oil for the last month. And I don't know if they can regain that ceiling from earlier in the year. About middle of the season, October pretty much, was all Bama. If they can regain that form, maybe the couple weeks do them good. Maybe they catch their wind a little bit. They're still a road favorite in Norman. So despite the fact that everyone hates Bama and no one thinks they should be in the field, the market still respects them as a road favorite at Oklahoma. The concern with Oklahoma is their offense. And I know John Mateer, it's been a while since that thumb surgery, but he still had thumb surgery on his throwing hand like 2 months ago. It takes a long time for that to heal and for him to be 100%. He can be a little bit erratic anyways with his accuracy. Does Alabama make some adjustments and not give up a pick six and not have Ty Simpson throwing it all over the yard? I think that's the key. I like Ty Simpson over John Mateer when Simpson is humming. He hasn't been humming. Can he go in for an oil change over the next 2 weeks and figure things out? I don't know. I think I lean Alabama in that game, but I think the big reason that I'm going to bet Bama in that game is because I've been on the Bama train all year, and the market respects them. So if the market likes them, I guess it kind of gives me a little solace that they're going to heal up and play a good football game and get some revenge in Norman. I'll probably be on Bama in that game. I probably will. So early looks for the college football playoff. I think I like Miami plus 3.5. I like Ole Miss. I like Alabama. And I like Oregon to win, but they probably cover. JMU hasn't beaten a Power 4 team all year. Can we get rid? I'm done with the group of 5, guys. I'm out. If you're gonna make the college football playoff, you need to at least play a college football playoff team at some point throughout the course of the season. I tallied up these numbers earlier today. I'll give them to you now because I think they're at least somewhat noteworthy. So I tallied up the records for all of the teams against the group of 5, or excuse me, against the CFP. Indiana went 2-0 against CFP qualifiers, right? They beat Oregon and they beat Ohio State. Ole Miss and Georgia went 2-1. Pretty impressive. Ole Miss beat Tulane. Ole Miss beat Oklahoma. Georgia beat Bama. Georgia beat Ole Miss. Georgia also lost to Bama. Ole Miss also lost to Georgia. Oklahoma went 1-1. They beat Bama. Lost to Ole Miss. Alabama went 1-2. They beat Georgia. Lost to Oklahoma. Lost to Georgia in the ICC Championship. Ohio State, Oregon, Tulane all went 0-1. How about that? Ohio State. Everyone thought they were unbreakable, including me. Didn't beat a CFP qualifier all season. Lost their only chance. Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Miami, and JMU did not face a college football playoff qualifier all season. Now, you want to push back and say A&M and Miami both played Notre Dame, who was right on the cusp. Okay. Texas Tech played BYU twice, who was right on the cusp. Okay. But neither of them were college football playoff qualifiers. And JMU didn't even come close. I love JMU, but they do not deserve to be in the college football playoff. Neither does Tulane. They're ranked outside the top 19 in the rankings. Tulane's ranked 20th, and JMU is ranked 24th. Why are we including the 20th and 24th ranked teams in a 12-team playoff? It makes no sense. I don't want to use the W word because I know that's a very politically divisive word in our current culture, and I don't want to get canceled. But sports was supposed to be immune from that type of thinking, the inclusivity. Let's include everyone. Participation trophy. You have to earn it in sports. That's what makes it great. JMU didn't earn it this year. They are not worthy of a college football playoff berth. The other big issue was the tiebreakers for the conference championship games that prevented Miami from being in. Whereas if Miami played in the American Conference with their tiebreaker structure, they would have been in the conference championship game because they actually use a logical tiebreaker system. I think they use your CFP ranking or your some kind of ranking instead of like your record against this random common opponent. The tiebreakers for conference championship games should be how high ranked of a team you are. So if we ever do run into the situation like we did this year with Duke, 5-loss Duke getting into the ACC championship game because they just happen to have a better record against this team who played that team who played this team who lost to Miami. It's absurd. It's like the scene in basketball. It's like the North Central Western Championship moves on to the division in the conference rivals of the Southeastern Northern Division. Like, it's so stupid. We are living in a simulation. Like, if you needed any more evidence that this system is broken, go look at how ACC tiebreakers work for the conference championship games. It's crazy. But here we are. And this is what we get. So I'll take a deep breath. That was a very painstakingly difficult college football playoff bracket recap segment. And from this point forward, I'm going to try to keep my focus on the games and the players and the coaches who are actually on the field and none of the drama that is off the field. Cheers to you, Notre Dame. Sucks you won't be playing in the Pop Tarts Bowl. Oh, man. Okay. Let's move on. I will give you a prediction really quick because the algorithm loves predictions. When I looked at the bracket for the first time, the first thing that popped out to me was the top half has an easier draw. Whereas I think right now the toughest teams, and I know Indiana just beat Ohio State, but it was the Big Ten championship game, not the national championship game. And I still think Indiana, they even admit it, they're a bunch of misfits. Their defense played out of their freaking minds. But I'll ask you, the audience, and you have to internalize this and ask yourself, because I asked myself the same question and I came to a very easy conclusion. If you're Alabama or Oklahoma or Oregon, or Ole Miss or Miami or A&M, I'm throwing out Tulane and JMU because they're participants in this. They're not serious contenders. Would you rather play Texas Tech or Indiana or Georgia or Ohio State? I would rather not have to see Georgia or Ohio State until the national championship game. That would be my preference. I would rather face Baron Morton and an Indiana team that is, don't get me wrong, Kurt Signetti, best coaching job maybe in college football history. But in the college football playoff, if you ask me, would you rather face Ohio State or Indiana? I would say I would rather face Indiana. That's just my preference. So the fact that both of those teams, Texas Tech and Indiana, are in the top half of the bracket, and Georgia and Ohio State are in the bottom half of the bracket, I think Alabama, Oklahoma, and Oregon have a better chance of making a deep run. If you were going to ask me of the two sides, which would you prefer? If you were going to take a team from outside the top four to make a run deep into the field, I would prefer a team in the top half of the bracket. I'm looking at Alabama. If Alabama can regain the form that won them 4 consecutive ranked games in October, I have seen enough ceiling from Bama to think that they can beat Indiana in a quarterfinal at the Rose Bowl. I can. Same thing with Oregon over Texas Tech. Now, I will say this. Texas Tech's defense might be the best defense in the entire field. I think that defensive line against the Oregon offensive line and freshman Dante Moore might be a really tough matchup. We've seen Indiana's defense really disrupt him. So I think that might be a bad matchup for Oregon. But I don't fully trust Baron Morton. When you get pressure on Morton, we saw it early stages of that Big 12 championship game when BYU was still in it. Morton was a little erratic. And then the defense for Texas Tech was just overwhelming. That Texas Tech defense is a championship unit. I'll be honest right now, Georgia and Texas Tech, that's my championship prediction right now. I think Georgia wins the national championship, and I think they beat Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech against Alabama in the Peach Bowl in a semifinal would be chef's kiss. I think Texas Tech would dominate Indiana. I'll be honest. I don't think Mendoza's, like, even in the Big Ten championship game, like, he was under heavy pressure. He almost got knocked out on the first play of the game. I thought he was knocked out. And Ohio State missed the field goal. Like, Ohio State really lost that game. Like, honestly, they did not play well. You credit the Indiana defense, but I think Alabama can beat Indiana. I do. And I think Alabama and Texas Tech would be an awesome semifinal. Georgia and Ohio State would be an awesome semifinal. I hope that's what it is. I hope it's Texas Tech, Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State. We'll see. But maybe it's Indiana's year. Can we just I'll give credit to Kurt Signetti for a minute. The coaching job he's done is unbelievable. In the 3 years, and this tweet kind of went like mini viral for me on Saturday night. In the 3 years prior to Kurt Signetti taking over at Indiana, they were 9-27. In the 2 years since, 24-2 with a Big Ten title and a Heisman winner at quarterback. incredible. Perhaps the best coaching job in college football history. Congrats to Fernando Mendoza. We said it on last week's show. Whoever wins that Big Ten championship, Mendoza won it. He's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner. He's goofy. The narrative's weird, but you got to give credit to Kurt Signetti, man. I can't hate on this guy. Like, do I think they're going to win the national championship? No, I do not. I do not think that. I think Georgia's better. I think Ohio State still is better. I even think Texas Tech could beat them. But you have to give credit to Kurt Signetti, man. I mean, just an unbelievable turnaround in Bloomington. And the Big Ten champs going in undefeated as the number one team with the Heisman Trophy winner deserves all the frickin' flowers. So that's my college football playoff prediction. Early predictions. Georgia over Texas Tech. There's my championship for you. Hate it, love it, don't really care. That's my first gut initial reaction. That's where I'm at right now. All right, let's get to Week 14 in the NFL. I'll be honest, I did not look at the lines yet, looking ahead. I was tied up with some stuff before the show, prepping the college football. So we're going to do that on the fly. Maybe we'll find some value. Maybe we won't. But first, let's go through the games quickly from Week 14, and I'll tell you if I upgraded or downgraded, and then I'll give you my rankings for the week, and then we'll get into the Week 15 look-ahead lines. All right, Thursday night, Detroit over Dallas. Impressive performance. Definitely upgrade the lines for that. Over 7 yards per play, plus 3 turnover margin. Dallas kind of falls back to earth a little bit. They were making a run, and now probably going to miss the playoffs. Maybe they'll sneak in, but NFC East, especially if Philly wins on Monday night, going to be really tough for them now. Seattle belt to ass over the Falcons. We keep upgrading Seattle. Don't fully trust Sam Darnold yet in a big game, but we have to give Seattle their flowers because when you're plus 2 net yards per play, and you're running up and down the field on the road against a pretty decent defense, Atlanta, I think definitely deserves an upgrade. And the Falcons, just the Kirk Cousins fallout just continues. Tennessee, hey, how about the Titans going on the road? Bad weather, outplaying the Browns in the second half. Or actually, excuse me, they outplayed them in the first half, hung on for dear life in the second half. They lost the box score. So we're going to upgrade Tennessee because they won a football game, and I think that's saying something in 2025. And we're going to downgrade Cleveland because when you're over a 3-point favorite and you lose outright, we got to downgrade you. But they were plus 1.8 net yards per play, plus 7% net success. So they definitely had their chances to win that game, especially late. The 2-point conversion, I don't know what the hell Kevin Stefanski was thinking, taking your quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, off the field. But we got to give Tennessee a little love for going on the road in bad weather and winning a game. So maybe they learned something. Green Bay, fun game. Packers, Bears, back and forth. The Bears did that thing where they kind of hung around and was lurking, maybe getting ready to steal your picnic basket at the end there. But you credit Green Bay, late drive, late stop, did all the things they needed to do down the stretch. They also won the box score, so they deserve to win the game. They also covered the game. We'll upgrade them. We'll slight downgrade Chicago. Chicago was getting to that point where it's like, they were winning all these games by the skin of their teeth. You had a feeling that they were going to come back down to earth at some point, and that's why I think it's natural. Even though they hung in there, I still think we downgrade Chicago, upgrade Green Bay. Big upgrade for Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy looked fantastic, and Jaden Daniels looks completely cooked. This Washington team looks done. Big downgrade for them. They're kind of a bottom 5 team this year, the Washington Commanders. How about that? NFC Championship game last year for the Commanders, 3-10 this year. Barely gonna, get out of the cellar maybe in the NFC East if they're lucky, and the Giants don't win any more games. Upgrade for Miami, 34-10 over the New York Jets. I'm glad the Jets lost because that was a big game standings wise. They've got a chance now to get back into the top 5. As a Jets fan, that's really all I care about. But big win for Miami in the box score. I think Miami's won 4 in a row, 5 of 6. They're not out of the playoff mix yet. Playoff race is getting tight now with Indy dropping games. So Miami's really rallied. You got to give a lot of credit to Miami. Big rally for them second half of the year. New Orleans goes into Tampa and wins as a big dog. This is one of the bigger upsets of the day. Box score was kind of mixed. Baker Mayfield looks absolutely cooked. So I have that Egbuka prop to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And he got like 10 targets, but only had like 3 catches. Like every time they're throwing to him, it's just like the ball is off target. And I think Baker's really hurt. His shoulder, his legs, I don't know what it is, but he's been carrying the mail for so long that I just think it's in the NFL, like it's a war of attrition, man. And I think the season's just really long. The Saints are feisty. Tyler Shuck showed us something. I think he led the team in rushing today. We had the nice Devin Neal rushing prop too that came home for us. But yeah, bad performance by the Bucs. They only gained 4.4 yards per play, lose to the Saints. And that NFC South is wide open. Panthers were on a bye, but they can win that thing. The Jags beat the Colts. They do dominate the box score, but the big story in the game, obviously, was Daniel Jones' injury. The dude was playing with a broken leg. So, obviously, he was overcompensating by putting more weight on the other leg. And what did that do? Snapped his Achilles. Not on the broken leg. The broken leg's Achilles is okay. But when you're throwing off the other leg and you're putting all that extra weight on your non-injured leg, that's what happens. That's the fear with playing through an injury like that. And I feel awful for Daniel Jones because he's having a great year. Shane Steichen, Coach of the Year, that is pie in the sky. That's gone now. Colts are probably going to lose out and miss the playoffs. How about that? After the start they had, they might finish under 500 and miss the playoffs. The NFL truly does stand for not for long. Steelers beat the Ravens. Kind of an ugly game. I thought the Ravens deserved to win. They definitely made more plays in this game than they did last week against Cincinnati, but just couldn't get home. Credit Aaron Rodgers, made a few throws. They gained over 6 yards per play. I don't know what else to say. They won the turnover margin. They played a clean game on the road in Baltimore. You saw the discount double check on a touchdown run. I mean, Rodgers had the mojo. The AFC North might be decided by a 9-8 team. A 9-8 team is probably going to win that division this year. It might be Pittsburgh. Denver beat the Raiders. They did not cover, though. This was one of the most fugazi moments of the year. The Raiders are down 10. Geno Smith is hurt. They're driving down the field. There's no time left. There was 4 seconds left on the clock. The Raiders could have just thrown a Hail Mary into the end zone and ended the game. They were down 10, mind you, with 4 seconds left. They have no chance of winning. Even if you kick a field goal, it's going to take 4 seconds, and the game's going to end. But that old Pete Carroll, don't tell me Pete didn't know the number. Pete runs his field goal unit out with 4 seconds left, kicks the field goal, clock hits 0, game's over. Broncos don't cover the 7 and a hook. Can't make it up. One of the most... Now, I am firmly in the belief that the NFL is not rigged. There is not some voice from above calling down the results. It's not scripted. It's not rigged. You can't confuse ref incompetence with malice, with intent. Refs miss calls. It's not on purpose. They just are incompetent. I mean, we've watched enough refs to know that they'll look right at the call and get it wrong. It's not on purpose. They're not getting a call from the commissioner or Vegas. I love it when people do that. When it's like Vegas called. Like, yes, the entire city of Vegas called to make sure that the Broncos didn't cover the spread. Like, it's just so stupid. The action is spread out at so many different books. Onshore, offshore, in Vegas, not in Vegas. Like, it's so stupid when I hear that. I always see the tweets and the memes of the I forget what his name is in the movie Casino, where he's on the phone from the sports book, and it's like, yeah, we need this to go down. Like, it's funny. I love it. It's hilarious, but it's not. There's no truth to it. There is no man up above that is calling down the results. That was just one of those moments where Pete Carroll was like, I'm going to cover the spread, and he decided to cover the spread. There is no other reason to kick the field goal in that spot unless you are trying to cover the spread. With 4 seconds left, everyone knows how long a field goal takes to go up through the uprights. It's about 5 seconds. I've never seen a field goal take less than 4 seconds. Never. It has to go up and through, and then the ref's got to do this. It's always 4 seconds. Pete Carroll knew when he ran his field goal team out there, that was going to be the last play of the game. He wanted to cover. Hey, listen, maybe some of the donors for the team, maybe some of Davis's donors Maybe they were betting the Raiders. Who knows? But if you're still betting the Raiders at this point, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you, for crying out loud, because they've been awful all freaking year. And they lost again, but good for them. They covered on one of the more wacky backdoors of the year in the NFL. Speaking of wacky, the Bills-Bengals game was on drugs. Awesome game. Buffalo wins. They didn't cover. The spread was right on the number. Basically, Buffalo was a 5.5-point favorite. They won by 5. They did win the box score. I'm not going to upgrade Buffalo because I still see some, on defense, some glaring weaknesses. But Josh Allen is the man, and they're going to be in every game because of him. On the Bengals side, their defense is just, I can't upgrade them because their defense might be still the worst unit in the league. Trey Hendrickson doesn't want to play anymore, and they can't stop a nosebleed. But Joe Burrow looks pretty damn good. You give Joe Burrow a defense, you give Josh Allen a defense, that's scary. But neither of them have a defense right now. The problem for the Bengals is they also have 10 losses, so you can kiss their playoff hopes goodbye. They might be out 9 losses. Actually, let me see where I don't want to short. The Bengals fans are going to come screaming for my head here. They're on 9 losses. I apologize. So the best record they can have is 8-9, but they're still cooked. I guess maybe they could run the table and win the AFC North because that dumpster fire of a division might actually finish 8-9, but highly doubtful. I think it is safe to put your Bengals playoff tickets to bed for 2025. Upgrade the Rams, 8 yards per play against the Cardinals, belt to ass. Biggest blowout of the week, but we did hit our Jacoby Brissett passing attempts over. The prop market is your friend. You write the script, you win. And in the Sunday night game, I think we have to play the obituary. I'm going to eulogize the Chiefs. It's over for the Chiefs this year. 7 losses. They aren't winning the margins. They're not doing the little things. They're committing penalties in key spots. They're dropping passes. Their coach is going for it on insane 4th and 1s when he absolutely should have punted, tie game in your own territory with like 10 minutes left. It just reeks of desperation and panic. It reeks of a team that feels their dynasty slipping away and they're grasping and chasing to regain that power and that momentum. But when you're not playing in flow and you're chasing, you're going to make mistakes. And that's the Chiefs' season. Turnovers, penalties, mistakes, panic, desperation. Miss the playoffs. That's the recipe for missing the playoffs right there. I've defended the Chiefs all year. I've said they've been a playoff contender, Super Bowl contender. If this was Shark Tank, I'm out. Tonight was the night, the final straw. When I saw Andy Reid go for it on 4th and 1 at his own 30-yard line with a lot of time left in the game, when your defense was slamming the door shut in the second half, you punt it, you flip the field, you force another 3 and out, which you've done the entire second half. You get the ball back, you get a drive together, you kick a field goal, you win the game by a field goal, you move on. But Andy got a little greedy there. He felt like the magic would bail him out. I fear the magic has run out in Kansas City. That's not to say it's over forever. They're dealing with a ton of injuries, offensive line. How about that? Very strange injury game in the first quarter. Left tackle, star cornerback, both get hurt. And the O-line was decimated already with injuries. That was like their second string tackle. They were down to a guy off the street from the practice squad who hadn't even played all year making his debut. Starting left tackle. So I don't want to say the Chiefs are dead and buried forever. But the 2025 Chiefs, they're done. They are not making the playoffs. Too many teams in front of you, not enough games left, and your tiebreaker scenario is gross. The head-to-heads, the AFC record, there's just too much to overcome. So I will always admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong about the Chiefs this year. I thought they were a team that would figure it out as the year went on, sneak into the playoffs by the skin of their teeth, and then create havoc for teams ahead of them who are not as experienced with those tight moments. But the reality was the Chiefs were the ones folding in those tight moments. So I've got to admit when I'm wrong. I'll always tell you when I'm right, but I'll also tell you when I'm wrong. I was wrong about the Chiefs this year. They are not a playoff team, and their season will end in the regular season. All right, let's go to look-aheads for Week 15. Some interesting games on the card. Let me pull up the numbers here. Take a little sip of water as well. Some interesting games on the card. All right, let's start with Thursday night. Atlanta at Tampa. I make it 5.5. It's 5.5. So we're not going to do anything with that. Arizona at Houston. That game just ended. What do I got? Arizona and Houston. I make it 11.5, and it's 9.5. So probably won't do much there. I think Houston's definitely starting to figure it out, but I don't really want to lay double digits with them, especially coming off this. That's an obvious letdown spot on the road. Win in Sunday night at the Chiefs. Vegas at Philly. I make the game 15.5. The spread's 12.5. I guess we'll wait to see what Philly does on Monday night, but yeah, I think under 2 touchdowns. Do I like laying that in the NFL? No, but Vegas is. After covering last week, I think Pete Carroll has angered the gambling gods. I would not be surprised if the Eagles open up a can on the Raiders. It's been a frustrating year for the Eagles. If they can win by 40, I think they will. Jets at Jaguars. I make it 12.5. It's 11.5. Probably won't do much there. The Jags obviously should win that game. What else? Cleveland at Chicago. I make it 13.5, and it's 7. Man, the market just does not respect Chicago. So if you recall last week, I think the one loser I gave out, remember last week on the show on the early lines, I gave out the Dolphins covered, Jags won and covered, and then the Bears, because I just thought like, man, the market just hates the Bears, not respecting the Bears at all. Again, the market not respecting the Bears at all. I make this game 13.5, and I've been kind of neutral on the Bears. Like, I haven't been over my skis with their start. Like, I've been kind of like, all right, they're going to come back down to earth. So I've been pretty average with my rating for the Bears this year. And I'm still 6 points off market. Goodness gracious. I mean, maybe that's a low total, too. I would bet Chicago -7. I would. I think Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson bounce back. I think they were in that game to the end, and I don't think Cleveland's very good. Tennessee just went into Cleveland and put up a bunch of points. I think Chicago could absolutely put up a big number. And also you get that home-road dynamic. Cleveland, historically on the road, gives up more points than at home, even though they gave up a lot of points at home to Cam Ward the other day. So I think I'd be on Chicago there, -7. I think I'll keep going back to the well with the Bears, even though it obviously was the loser this week. It wasn't. It was looking okay for a while there. That game was tied late. And if Green Bay kicks a field goal instead of scores a touchdown on that final drive, Bears cover. Buffalo at New England. I make Buffalo a 1.5-point favorite. The line's basically a pick 'em. I see some shops have Buffalo -1. Circa's got New England -1. So we're kind of right on market there. It's basically a pick 'em. Probably won't do much there, but I do think Buffalo wins the game. New England, go look at the record of the teams New England's played this year. It's like 30 games under 500. It's really bad. They haven't beaten anyone, except for Buffalo, I guess, to be fair, on the road. But the combined record of the teams that they faced is very poor, and I will be looking to fade New England down the stretch. And this is, I think, a spot to do it, especially if you can get Buffalo as an underdog, because I do make them a slight favorite in the game. So, honestly, let's make that a play right now, because I see it Buffalo +1 at Circa. I see Buffalo +1 offshore. Buffalo +1. I'm on the Bills this week. I think Buffalo goes into New England and wins that game. Chargers at Chiefs, obviously a lot of implications from tonight, a lot of implications on Monday night. I make the game 3.5. It looks like the reopen after the after the Chiefs loss is 4.5. So the market's still kind of giving the Chiefs some love here, even though I downgraded the Chiefs pretty significantly after the game tonight. Injuries, but also we're jumping off the bandwagon. No chance I'm laying points with the Chiefs. No chance. You got to either take the Chargers or pass in that spot. But I make the game basically right on market, so I'm not probably going to bet that one. Indy at Seattle. Indy at Seattle. Where are we at here? I make the game 13.5. It's 10.5. I think you bet Seattle. The quarterback situation for Indy is dire straits. I downgraded them a full touchdown now that they're going to Riley Leonard. It's Riley Leonard making his first NFL start on the road in Seattle. Where have we seen this movie before? Last week, Vikings, Max Brosmer, disaster. I think Seattle wins that game big. Seattle -10. That's only going in one direction. That line is only moving towards Seattle this week, no doubt about it. Seattle has to be on your card this week. Early. Bet Seattle early. That line will continue to creep up throughout the week. Green Bay at Denver. I make this game basically a pick, and it's Green Bay -1. Actually, I see some 2s out there. Yeah, maybe Denver is a slight home dog, but I kind of think Green Bay is the better team. I'm kind of neutral on Denver, too. I know they've got this great record, but, man, have they needed to win in some weird ways. I think I like Green Bay in that spot, but I wouldn't bet it. I think the price is right. I make Green Bay a slight favorite in the game, and Green Bay is a slight favorite in the game. So anything under 3, I think you lay off it. If it gets to 3, I think that's where you got to look to the Denver side. Carolina at New Orleans. All of a sudden, this is a huge game in the NFC South. Carolina wins this game. I make Carolina a 5.5-point favorite. They are just a 2.5-point favorite. Now, to be fair, maybe I'm not as bullish on Tyler Shuck, but he showed a lot today. And that Saints defense is playing well. The market is respecting the Saints in this spot, I think, under a field goal, considering their record this year. I would probably look to Carolina, though. I would. Coming off the bye, they got a chance to really win the NFC South. New Orleans in a letdown spot. Under a field goal, I probably would bet Carolina, but not my strongest look this week because still road favorite. I like Carolina much more in the road underdog or home underdog role. Detroit at the Rams. I make it Rams -4.5. It's 5. Probably won't do much there. I feel like the Rams are the best team in the NFL, but that is a must-win game for Detroit. You get the revenge narrative, right? The Goff, Stafford angle. Probably going to lay off that game, but it's tough not to bet Detroit as a big dog because they seem to be in most of these games. But I'll probably lay off that one. Tennessee at San Francisco. I make it 14.5. It's 13. Obviously, that should be one-sided. The Niners coming off the bye. Maybe they're getting a little bit healthier. They can smell the playoffs. I don't know if they can win the division. They've got the Rams right in front of them. So I feel comfortable they're going to win that game. I think is it Rams? Who do the Niners have next week? Is it when do the Niners play the Seahawks? I think that game is coming up the following Thursday. No, they already played the Seahawks once, and they don't play them again to the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, I think the Niners, I mean, the rest of their schedule just got a lot easier, right? You get the Titans at home, then you play Indy, then you get the Bears at home. The Niners are a formidable team. We bet over 10 wins on them. I think that's going to cash. And they're going to be tough in the playoffs so they can get healthy, but not much value here in this game. Big favorite against San Francisco. Minnesota at Dallas. Let's see what I make this number. I make this 4.5. It's 6.5 with Dallas as the favorite. I upgraded Minnesota a little bit for today. I guess maybe the market didn't fully vibe with what Minnesota did today to Washington. I guess I don't fully trust J.J. McCarthy on the road against the Dallas defense that has shown a little bit. The Cowboys get the extra rest. So I guess I understand why the market's shading them a little bit. I think if this gets to 7, I think I'd be on Minnesota. But no play at 6.5. And in the Monday night game, Miami at Pittsburgh, I make Pittsburgh a 2.5-point favorite. It is 3.5. Miami's been playing pretty well. Not going to lie. But outdoor game at night in Pittsburgh. Don't love the Tua vibes there, although he played well in a cold environment against the Jets on Sunday. I would probably lean Miami plus 3.5 there, but not my strongest play. I think my strongest play of the week right now is Seattle. I think Seattle, with Indy falling off a cliff, that number is going to keep rising throughout the week. and Buffalo as an underdog. I absolutely would take the Bills as an underdog at New England, and I probably would lay less than 2 touchdowns with the Eagles against the Raiders. So those are my 3 early plays of the week. Philly, Buffalo, and Seattle. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. Philly, Buffalo, Seattle. Those are the early plays. Last week, the early plays went 2-1. Maybe we'll go 2-1 or 3-0 again this week. All right, let's quickly update the power ratings. I'll tell you where I'm at right now. I'll give you my Super Bowl island, and then we will move forward with the show. All right, Rams at the top, obviously. Here are my contenders right now. Rams, Bills, Seahawks, Lions, Packers, Texans, Eagles. That's the top 8. I only have 2 AFC teams in my top 8. Buffalo and Houston. Rams, Seahawks, Lions, Packers, Eagles. Man. Sorry, that was only 7. Top 7. My scintillating 7. I have 5 NFC teams, 2 AFC teams in my top 7. That second tier, Ravens, Broncos, Niners, Patriots, Chiefs, Bears. Chiefs aren't even going to make the playoffs, so you throw them out. Ravens might not make the playoffs. Got to kind of push them to the side. Denver, I don't fully trust them. I think San Francisco can maybe play their way into that top tier if they get healthy. I think New England can play their way into that top tier if they beat Buffalo this week. Then I will bump them up. I don't think Chicago can play into that top tier. I don't think they're good enough this year. I don't think the Chargers can, or the Jaguars, or the Cowboys, or the Steelers. And those are the teams that I have rated even or positive in my power ratings. Frankly, I think that top 7 is your championship tier. Super Bowl Island for week 14. Rams, Bills, Seahawks, Lions, Packers, Texans, Eagles. One of those teams is going to win the Super Bowl. I reserve the right to change my mind next week. Remember, I can vote teams on or off Super Bowl Island at any time before the playoffs start. Then they lock. But until the playoffs start, I can pull some levers. We're at 7 right now. I've got 7 teams on Super Bowl Island heading into week 15 in the NFL. All right, the MVP, I think, I don't want to say it's a done deal, but you had a buying opportunity last week with Matthew Stafford. Weird, fluky loss to Carolina, threw a pick 6, couple of 4th down lightning strikes by the Panthers. All of a sudden, Drake May in prime time plays great against the Giants, who stink. And now Drake May's the favorite. I've been saying it since the start of the season. I think it was the first show we did. Drake May is going to be the MVP runner-up this year. He's not going to win the MVP. Because when you have a guy like Stafford in the mix, the narrative sucks the oxygen right out of the room. He's never won an MVP. He's been in the league for 15 years. He's played at an MVP level for many of those years, but he's never won the MVP. This is his year. The Rams are probably going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC. I've been saying for weeks, the quarterback on the team that wins the NFC's number 1 seed deserves to be the MVP. It's probably going to be Matthew Stafford. He's minus 160 right now. Let's see who the Rams face down the stretch of the season. I want to say they have to play the Seahawks one more time, but I could be wrong because they've already beaten the Seahawks this year. Yes, they have the Seahawks on a Thursday night next week. That actually is an intriguing reason to bet the Lions this week because maybe the Rams are going to throttle down just a little bit with that Seahawks game on deck on the road the following Thursday, but they really can't afford to. because Seattle is playing a cupcake in Indianapolis who just lost their quarterback. So the Seahawks are definitely going to win. However, as long as the Rams win their next game against Seattle, they will have beaten Seattle twice. And then if they finish with the same record, which at the time they would, both be 11-4, and then the Rams win their last two games against the Falcons and the Cardinals, which I think they will, then the Rams will finish 13-4 and have the best record in the NFC. I feel like that's pretty likely at this point. Do I feel like it's more than minus 160 likely? No. Because I think the power ratings respect Seattle a lot. And I think that game at Seattle on that Thursday night, that line will be close. So if you like Matthew Stafford to be the MVP of the league, wait until week 16 and just bet the Rams really hard in that game on the road at Seattle Thursday night. That is your MVP equivalent, where you don't have to wait for the votes. You don't have to wait for the award to be given out. You don't have to wait until the Super Bowl weekend to get your money. You can ring the cash register on a very correlated wager right away. So if you feel like you missed the boat last week on that buying opportunity for Matthew Stafford to win MVP, don't chase. Hold. You'll get another opportunity to bet the Rams at a reasonable price to beat Seattle. If the Rams lose that game at Seattle, maybe Sam Darnold, Jordan Love, Drake May. That's when the alternative options for MVP will then be presented. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, the path is very clear for Matthew Stafford. Win at Seattle and win 2 cupcakes down the stretch. You don't even have to beat the Lions this week. You don't have to. You can lose that game. In fact, if you do lose that game, it'll give us another good buying opportunity on Stafford MVP. We'll see what the price is then. We'll, again, reassess the market next Sunday night when I do this show, heading into that Thursday night game between the Rams and the Seahawks, which is going to be one of the games of the year. Circle that date, December 18th. Thursday night, Rams at Seahawks. It will likely decide the number 1 seed in the NFC. Could also decide the MVP. It'll all come down to that one game. Reminds me of a few years ago when Lamar Jackson played Brock Purdy on, I think it was Christmas night, Monday Night Football. That game decided the MVP. Lamar won it. He won the MVP. I think we've got a similar scenario playing out in the NFC. So hold on to your butts. We got a big one coming up 10 days' time, Seahawks, Rams. Whew. Okay, let's close the show like we always do with 2 segments. Before we do these segments, hydrate. The voice is hanging in there. It's been a rough week, but we're rallying. Rise and Wine. Okay, we're going to start Rise and Wine on a slightly positive note. I know it's a negative segment where I complain, and I will, don't worry. But I want to at least highlight the silver lining of this segment, which is Penn State's found themselves a new head football coach. So let's clap it up for Matt Campbell, who arrived in State College over the weekend after an excruciatingly long coaching search. Penn State finally found their man. I think he's going to do great things for the program. I think they lucked their way into a good candidate, but it was not an easy road. Why was it not an easy road? Well, you've heard me and a lot of other people go after Pat Kraft, the athletic director. I was wrong. He's not to blame for the clusterfuck that took place in Happy Valley with this coaching search. The people to blame are actually lurking in the shadows, operating on their own self-interests. And it's really a damn shame because the name you'll recognize. And before I reveal who it is and what they're doing, I want to give a shout out to my colleague at Fox Sports Radio, LeVar Arrington, for shining a light for me on this story. I was unaware of some of the politicking and backstabbing going on behind the scenes in Happy Valley. When you understand and grasp what's happening, it all kind of makes sense why things unraveled like they did. I'm talking about Jay Paterno, who is obviously Joe Paterno's son and a member of the Penn State Board of Trustees, which means he has immense power. He can delay hiring processes, look into firing people, and pretty much controls all the money and all the influence at the top of the Penn State athletics food chain. It's a very powerful position. He could use this position and his influence for good, to try to elevate the program. Use his name, his dad's name, to be a stepping stone for the future. But instead, from what I'm told, from LeVar, his perspective and perspectives of others that do have a bit of an inside track into what's going on behind the scenes in Happy Valley, Jay Paterno, along with Anthony Lebrano, another board member, their sole intention, their singular focus is the rehabilitation of Joe Paterno's legacy and reputation. Obviously, it didn't end well for Joe. The Jerry Sandusky fallout. He gets let go. He dies shortly after that. Then they remove his statue. The program is completely stripped of dignity. It gets rebuilt. Bill O'Brien did a great job brick by brick with Matthew Motti and that team with Christian Hackenberg. Showed a lot of intestinal fortitude, sticking with the program and building it back to what it is today. James Franklin carries that torch to the next level. But behind the scenes, at every turn, they were getting shortcut. They were getting backstabbed. They were getting politicked, House of Cards style, with the goal of rehabilitating and fixing the wrongs that were, in Jay's mind, done to his father. A very selfish endeavor. They are likely the ones who forced James Franklin out. They are likely the ones that forced Matt Rule to distance himself from taking the Penn State job. He just didn't want anything to do with the drama. I don't blame him. They were also likely the ones propping up Terry Smith, right? We saw him wearing the 409 pin to restore the Joe Paterno legacy. That's all politics. That whole campaign to hire Terry Smith and make him into this legit candidate for the job was all to boost Joe Paterno's legacy and to rehabilitate it back to prominence. That is the singular focus of Jay Paterno. Then you see the leaked audio from Pat Kraft having a meeting with the outgoing seniors about the coaching search. When you see something like that, it looks like an inside job. And then when you get the context of what Jay and Anthony Lebrano have been doing this whole time, you might have an idea where that audio is coming from. I'm not saying it was directly leaked by them, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was. Not at this stage. So 2 things come to mind. One, I owe Pat Kraft a huge apology. This dude, listen to that audio. He might have been a little rough around the edges, but he wants nothing more than to see Penn State win. So I can't fault him for the bullshit going on behind the scenes. And it seems as though it's starting to stink to where outside people who are not even in the room, like LeVar, who is part of the room, but not really in the room, not anymore, to talk about this on a national scale. And he revealed this to his audience, his Fox Sports Radio audience, on the show over the weekend. And when I listened to it, I reached out to LeVar immediately. I was like, dude, thank you for speaking up on this. I had no idea it was this bad. And he got back to me and said, yeah, like some people just need to use their powers for good, not evil. And that's how I feel about it. Jay Paterno and Anthony Lebrano could be pouring their heart and soul into making Penn State the best football school, program, university ever. But instead, their main focus is to rehabilitate a dead man's reputation. If the left hand and the right hand are not working in unison, the body does not work. So I hope that we could figure out a way to get rid of these guys, or they come to their senses, and maybe some of the pressure from the media on the outside will cleanse the halls of the Board of Trustees. But Penn State's got a big problem on their hands. The power dynamics behind the scenes is not favorable. And that's where the money's coming from. And what did we say earlier in the show? Everything in college football these days is about the money. So if not everyone is looking downfield, if there's some people that are looking to the sidelines with their own self-interest in mind, you're not going to score on that drive. So I hope things turn around. I'm excited for the Matt Campbell era. I think he's a good coach who can do good things, but he needs the help of every single person in that athletic department, including Terry Smith. And God bless Terry Smith. That man could have left for another job and nobody would have faulted him. Not only did he stay, but they gave him a raise. He's going to be the highest paid non-coordinator in college football. And boy, is that a good thing. I cannot overstate how important it is that Penn State kept Terry Smith on their staff. And credit to Terry Smith for taking the high road after being passed over for the job. In a very public, weird way. He still stuck it out. Notre Dame could learn something from him. And he's going to stick with the Nittany Lions next year and sign an extension. That is awesome news. And that is why I am bullish and optimistic about the future of the Penn State program under new head coach Matt Campbell, who's a quarterback guy. Get us a quarterback that doesn't pee down his leg in the big game, Matt. Get us a Brock Purdy, please. Bring one of those guys over. But there's my Penn State homerism acting for a minute. But I'm excited for Matt Campbell, and I really hope Paterno and Lebrano get off the reservation. Wake up. It's not about your dad's legacy. This is about a program and student athletes and raising their level to the highest possible achievements. All right, speaking of achievements, let's get you a winner on the way out here. Morning Glory. Last week was a winner. Hey, we gave you a winner last week on the Drake May prop. That was the Travion Henderson long rush prop. He got there late, but he got there. Another prop for you this week. Jalen Hurts over 7.5 rushing attempts against the Chargers on Monday night. So full disclosure, I bet this at over 6.5 for minus 150 earlier in the week. I'm still seeing lots of 7.5s at a cheaper price out there, like minus 110, minus 120. I think that's totally fair. This feels like a Jalen Hurts legs game. The Eagles' backs are against the wall. They've lost 2 games in a row. Everyone thinks they stink. You've got the tush push. You've got designed runs. You've got scrambles. You've got kneel downs. There are a lot of outs for you to get over a rushing attempts prop for a quarterback in the NFL. Right? Kneel downs count. Obviously, tush pushes count. Scrambles count. Hurts the top 10 scrambler in the NFL this year. And then design quarterback runs. Maybe they cook up a couple of those for him as well. So my best bet for Monday Night Football, Morning Glory, over 7.5 rushing attempts for Jalen Hurts. Eagles, Chargers, Monday Night Football. All right, that's going to wrap up the show. Episode 11 of The Morning After is in the books. Don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Sign up for the newsletter. Click all the buttons. We're doing great things on the show. We're getting close to the new year. Going to turn the corner into the playoffs, bowl season, March Madness. A lot of exciting things on the horizon. Do not miss a moment of it. In order to get all the content, you got to click all the buttons. Please subscribe. Please like. Please share. It goes a long way into showing how much you appreciate the work that I do. I love you all. Don't forget, hit the like button on your way out. We'll see you next week on The Morning After.